Today is the 10th anniversary of the release of The Sims. So 10 years ago today, February 4th, Sims was released upon the world. It's sort of humbling to think that for the last 10 years, as a studio, we've been making The Sims.
Before The Sims, for the most part, we were a sports company. And with the introduction of The Sims 10 years ago, I think it changed everything. It changed the way we look at ourselves. I think it changed the way consumers perceive our company. I would actually say that The Sims is probably one of the most important things that's happened in the history of our company since our founding in 1982.
If you think about the beginning of The Sims, prior to that launch and that kind of success and just a phenomenon that it really became, people weren't sure about it. No one was sure about it. Will had an idea for that game. The team as a force really loved what they were making, and creatively we're all able to contribute to it. It's what I think is why The Sims has always been so successful, is it is really this reflection of everyone as opposed to one person's vision.
I think one of the unique things about The Sims is that nobody's effectively copied it yet. You know, when you look at all the other game genres, usually there's a big hit, and then everybody comes out with their version of the big hit, and then it's a whole genre. The Sims is a whole genre with no competition, really. Well, originally The Sims, was very focused on the architecture, and so we put these little simulated people in there. We had to make the people very robust in a way to where we could put them in any situation, and they would behave fairly appropriately to that situation. Eventually, the people were working so well, better than we thought they would, that they become far more interesting than the architecture, right off the bat.
You, the player, are in control, and the stories emerge from your actions. So it's kind of like a piece of software which every move you make, it gives you invitations to tell your own story in a new and different way with little hooks.
It's not one storyline. It's literally millions and millions and millions that are in the minds of each and every one of the players. And so as a game, it's not only a game, it's also this creativity tool that allows you to really experience what you can imagine on the screen. Essentially a dollhouse. That was how it was originally described. Will would describe it as a dollhouse game. That defied conventional wisdom. There was no way you could look at the other games that were successful and popular at that point in time and imagine that The Sims would pass them all and be this juggernaut that 10 years in is still as strong and as revered as it was when it first came out.
The impact that The Sims has had for Electronic Arts. It's the biggest PC franchise ever, and I think it really kind of took Electronic Arts down a new path because it brought an entirely new audience, women, to gaming.
Really looking back on it, the most proud accomplishment was the team that we had built. It was extraordinary in a few ways, for its time, which we shipped the game around 2000. About 40% of the team were female, which, I'm really convinced that the only way to get games that really attract more women players is to have women, creating the games.
We bounce a lot of things around. One thing might seem really sensible to one of the guy designers, and then one of the women's designers like, nah, you know what, that's too guy, or it's too male, or that's too female. And so there's this great sort of equilibrium that's reached in the process of designing the game. Whether it's the animations that go into it, or the objects that we decide to make, or a particular way that a social is going to play out. And then you couple with that just the kind of male-female balance, and then it's got an international balance as well, which is we have players and we have developers from all over the world, and so we're always looking at the game and saying, does this make sense culturally? Does this make sense in terms of how it approaches the gender balance? All of these things, really, it's about creating a game that allows the player to do what they wanted to do with it, as opposed to us saying, here is the morality or whatever that we're going to place upon you as the player.
I think the coolest thing about The Sims was that the audience that it attracted. It not only got gamers involved, and they were sort of the early adopters and the fascination with driving little human beings around, but it really ended up appealing to a broad audience. It's about 50-50 male-female now, and I think that that's something that's pretty unique in our industry.
The Sims was probably the first game where I felt like I was definitely getting more entertainment from the community than they were probably getting from me. as a designer. Just the range of creativity they exhibited, not just how they played the game, but with stuff that they made from the game, the machinima, the stories that they told, the new objects, character skins, the kind of community games that they built around it.
I can hardly believe it's been 10 years since we originally shipped The Sims. It's just been an experience that both making it as well as seeing how people play it has been so fulfilling. What a great anniversary, the 10th anniversary for The Sims.